Well, on the topic of Disney not being positioned to do anything sensible, look, folks. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not trying to just be a dick. I call him like I fucking see him. And I watched the 2 fucking agonizing hours of Ahsoka attentively. And I'll even add this. I kind of like that character. I definitely liked her in The Mandalorian. The sort of sizzle reel stuff I've seen on YouTube from her terrible cartoon shows that you all love for some reason. That's not something I can understand. These Disney XD cartoons that you all enjoy. I liked her in some of that stuff. Like there was on Disney Plus, they did the last run of Clone Wars, the last season of Clone Wars. And most of them were derpy and useless. But there was like the final 3 episodes, basically were a little movie about Ahsoka and Darth Maul. And it was pretty fucking cool. And it ended in this really poignant place with Darth Vader. It was really quite good. And I liked her in Tales from the Jedi. I think Tales from the Jedi is awesome. This is the thing about Filoni that I'm like, sometimes his stuff, we call it Filoni baloney. I don't know.
He has a recurring characters that he shoves in everything.
Yeah.
It kind of gives the impression of a lore, of larger or recurring world. But so this, I also watched these first 2 episodes, and at first I was kind of into it. Like when Ray Stevenson and Margot Tenenbaum's his apprentice, that kind of stuff, which is, I think, is a cool style for that kind of apprentice. Like the kind of think
he looks cool too. I think. This idea of like a huge buff old guy is kind of rad.
Yeah, rest in peace, obviously. And then and she's kind of like hunchy and like goth and weird. I like that. I like their kind of dynamic, and then they come aboard, and I like when they wreak havoc. It was kind of a fun intro. I was like, oh, this could be interesting, and I like the fact he's like an old Jedi who, he's not quite Sith, but he's kind of nostalgia for Jedi. That's an interesting concept.
He has a little bit of reverence for. He's like, I hope that we don't lose all the Jedi. Yeah, there were a couple of things that were cool. Yeah.
But then after that, once it gets to Ahsoka and Sabine and Hera, it's one, there's something like, I feel like whoever was directing this or the DP, whatever, is like, they just had to high key light everything maybe to get this out as fast as possible. I don't know.
Yeah. Like everything's on like a robot camera.
Cause if you think about because even if you think about back to Mandalorian season 1, there's a lot of like mood lighting and very really good cinematic shots, artful, thoughtful shots, and this feels like they just flooded lights to everything, which does no favors to the costuming, because the costuming looks like costumes. It doesn't look like what the wardrobe, the lived-in wardrobe that these characters would be wearing. It looks like they went to Spirit Halloween and got
it looks like fucking shit. It looks terrible. And if you don't see that, folks, audience, if you can't see how bad that show looks, I don't know what to do with you. Like, I'm worried about you on some level. Like I feel like there's a lot, I don't know. I get very frustrated by the limited ability to recognize like bad versus good in a lot of this stuff. Like, no depth of field, no mood lighting. I mean, when you're on Coruscant, do you feel like you're on Coruscant? No. And, so a lot of if the dude's a fan of the prequels, he nailed that.
If anything, this feels the most volumey thing. And also, you think about House of the Dragon, a lot they had some shots in the volume, and you wouldn't even be able to tell which one's on the volume, because it's very the wardrobing looks great in that space. It's just, but in this, it's totally, and the acting, I think, is it feels like a table read.
Yeah, it's atrocious.
It's so wooden. And if you I actually watched Rebels. I think it's kind of a derpy children's show, like literally for children, not like where people say, "Oh, Star Wars is for children." No, it's literally for like it's a children's show.
Yeah,
that's the audience, and it's derpy, but there's still some scenes that are poignantly Star Wars. It definitely, but there is in the cartoon show, there's actually life. Like the voice actors bring a lot of life to the characters. They bring a lot of the animators bring a lot of exuberance to the characters. These one is, it's kind of I like, since I've seen this show, you have not seen Rebels, so do you know?
I mean, I've seen when Ahsoka fights Darth Vader. I've seen when Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul. I've seen cool moments. Everything I've seen of this Ezra guy does nothing for me. I mean, I don't know what's compelling about that guy, but
yeah. So it requires a lot of reading for this. I think they try to like fill in the gaps somewhat, but I don't know. Like
I mean, I haven't seen it, and so I'm going in going, okay, I know Ahsoka because I'm a Star Wars fan, at least to that extent. And I've seen Mandalorian, by the way. Like that should be the more like, okay, what live action stuff have people seen that they can have as a point of reference? So I like her. And by the way, I really like the casting of Rosario Dawson. I think somebody told her to be a little sad and a little stoic, and that's her. Just nothing happening here.
She has like the same face through the whole thing, and then like you can think of like, oh well, the character's been through a lot, so now she's the wise one. But it doesn't feel. It feels like the prequels where everyone's like the stoic line readers.
You're just rationalizing this blandness at that point. But I don't know who Sabine is. I don't know
in the cartoon. She's supposed to be kind of like a firecracker. Like she's supposed to be a firecracker, like more artistic, more impulsive, more lively. And then in this, she's a stoic, serious female.
I don't know her relationship.
They try to relay that post-production by putting like rock punk music with alien language while she's on the speeder, but she's still got like a stoic wooden face.
So I don't know her. I don't know or care yet because nobody's told me anything about who Ezra is. I know who Admiral Thrawn is because of Heir to the Empire, but I don't know him in this world. And so him and Ezra are missing, and I don't know why, or I don't, so I don't know what's animating any of the characters. If Sabine and Ahsoka had a past relationship that fell out, I don't know much about that. So like, there's every point of reference is like, I got nothing, and I'm not excited. And
it doesn't help that a lot of the action revolves around MacGuffins. So they're trying to find a ball. She does like some Indiana Jones stuff, which I think is kind of shot interestingly, but it's like kind of stupid because it's like
asleep during that.
Yeah, it's just she's like rotating things in like she's in like a Jedi Outcast video game or something.
Totally. And in fact, honestly, because it was shot so stiffly on what felt like sound stages that were too small for the show, it really felt like Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 cutscenes. It really felt like put on your thrift store costume clothes, stand on the stage, and be like, the Jedi are looking for the droid. And, and just say all the stupid shit, and there's no heart in any of it.
Jan, what a pleasant surprise.
What would you do without me, Kyle?
I'd be a content old man.
Somehow I don't see content or an old man.
And it's, like, I'm not really a huge Andor fan. It certainly had its moments, but I was bored by a lot of it. But that thing is night and day with Andor. Yeah. Like Andor, when we talk about like cinematography that is motivated and artful and infused with character, like Andor's got all that. It feels like it's two utterly different franchises, but Mando season 3 was like this. And so something in leadership changed. Okay. Like that's that's definitely what happened now. And it probably is related to the Filoni productions. They were like, we need you to stop spending this much money. We need you to put on the thrift store costume clothes and just do it. Just shoot it, and we'll edit it before lunch, and and we'll push it out. And I was actually kind of excited about this shit, kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, where I'm like, well, I kind of I recognize the era. I recognize some of the characters. I think it's exciting that they have this cast member. That's another theme in Disney stuff where you're like, okay, Secret Invasion. I'm kind of excited that they have Samuel L. Jackson involved. That's cool. Oh, they've got, whatever, Martin Freeman involved. And then like that's where they spent all the money, was on the cast. And then they just kind of fly through the production.
And I didn't realize how strongly this would be a sequel to Rebels. I didn't realize that, and I think it's asking a lot of the audience.
Yeah,
because it's almost like with the Marvels coming out soon. They're expecting you to know who Ms. Marvel is. They're expecting you to know what happened in WandaVision. They're expecting you to know what happened in Captain Marvel, or at least maybe not. But I'm assuming, because there's 3 characters from those shows.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people have seen those things.
Yeah. I'm thinking that CG Luke, everybody's favorite character, is going to come into this. I think we pretty much know Anakin's coming into it, right? That they're going to do some kind of flashback there. So that's something to look out for. But I think it would be cool to start at least trying to, I'm sure they will, trying to combine the kind of Filoni verse at this point, the Boba Fett and, Din Djarin and stuff.
I thought that was the goal, is after all these, they're going to end it with a movie that kind of puts punctuation on this Filoni Favreau era.
Yeah.
That was my assumption, but.
And I thought it was a really inspired idea to be like, hey, why don't, we've built all this additional lore on Star Wars after the prequels between the Clone Wars and Rebels. Ahsoka is really kind of like a main character of that extended Star Wars universe, the one that kind of didn't go with the books, but everybody loves the Heir to the Empire book. So I thought it was kind of inspired to be like, let's take the two and make them into one show and then kind of tell a broader story about all these Filoni and Favreau shows. But not if you can't do it. Do a full ass job. Instead, they're doing a very half ass job.
Yeah, because I watched this thing. I'm like, oh yeah, Luke's still alive, Leia's still alive, and Luke and Han's still alive. Why aren't they like in these adventures?
Yeah, there was another moment I liked too. When they were talking about Sabine's aptitude falling short for the Force, that she's like has no aptitude in the Force. She's talking to a droid. And the droid's like, oh, he's like, oh yeah,
that's what David Tennant or whatever his name is.
Oh yeah, for the Doctor Who guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you really have no aptitude in the Force. And she's like, thanks, I'll stop wasting my time. And I'll stop wasting everybody's time. And he's like, the only time you're wasting is your own. That was the cool, I like that sort of like Star Wars philosophy type stuff. When like proverbs come into it, and I think Filoni's really good for that stuff. I just think he needs a film. He's just not a filmmaker, the guy. Okay. Yeah. Like he needs a filmmaker and he needs a little bit of budget too.
I think somebody else is directing. I think he just wrote this.
Well, he directed the pilot.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw somebody, maybe I was thinking of the second episode.
Who directed Ahsoka? Yeah, he did.
He did the first one. Okay.
Veteran Dave Filoni.
Okay.
is the answer.
Okay.
But I definitely like, Ray Stevenson. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, who passed. Yeah. And
yeah.
I liked the little droid Chopper, who spoke muffled English.
Yeah, that's Dave Filoni. Actually, that's his voice.
That was kind of funny. Like,
yeah. And he's kind of he's in the Rebels cartoon. He's kind of like a mess. He's like a.
Oh, okay.
He's one of the best characters because he's kind of the anti C-3PO, or he's like just kind of busted and chaotic.
I almost want to say, like, if you think that this is acceptable, this level of production, then you're supporting like a serious decline in the quality of all film and media. Like if you're concerned about like slipping standards and cutting corners and not paying writers and it's on display. They don't want it. They think that you will like this. They think that like they don't have to go the extra mile on these projects. Like just shoot it with high key lighting, just get through it. Don't cut it down. Don't get the rhythm right. Don't agonize over it. Just release it. That's what they think.
Yeah. And I have something that I pointed out earlier in Discord was Yeah, it's essentially Force Awakens. They're trying to find a MacGuffin or map to find a lost fan favorite. So it's a lot of that same storytelling that we saw in the sequel trilogy.
That's an excellent point. That's exactly what it is. And it's a shame because I was sold like, hey, you know how like the sequel trilogy was bad and also it was like way too far into the future. And so the real story would be kind of the post-Empire era. And then to kind of be like, well, actually they're going to get Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to tell that whole story in the form of many, many TV series. I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be great. But then to just do MacGuffins and stiff acting and, and like maps to fan favorite characters. I'm like, come the fuck on. And it's really annoying because it causes people that are watching to be like, I guess Star Wars just isn't good conceptually, you know? And I'm like, well, what would stop it from being good? That'd be like saying like, I don't know, like if Lord of the Rings had been bad, being like, I guess The Hobbit just can't be expanded. And you're like, well, it could be. I mean, in a world of possibilities, Star Wars is infinite possibilities. And we've seen it. I mean, it's not accurate to say that the original trilogy is the only good Star Wars. It's probably the only Star Wars you can really hang your hat on. But yeah, between the video games and of course Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, and I actually like the Boba Fett series. Nobody else does.
I enjoyed most of it.
Yeah. Well, so that's Disney for you. Disney's in trouble, man. They've got they had an earnings call just recently, and Iger was talking in riddles. The path to success is not always a straight line. It was like talking in fortune cookies.
Yeah, which is a shame because it's such a great kids brand, and I loved going to Disney World, and I loved all the cartoon characters. So it's a shame that they're struggling so much.
Well, Gloria has been trying to will her way to Disney World for about a year. She keeps saying, we're going to go in the fall. She's like, tells people this. We have no plans to go to Disney World. And yes, of course we'll bring her eventually, but it's whatever it is. It's like $10,000 or something. And
yeah, you be prepared. Yeah.
And it's, I don't know that it's somebody her, she's really little and doesn't have great endurance. And I think like probably more like 8 would be a better time to go for her. Probably. I went when I was 6 and I remember it went a bit over my head. And my sister has a 7-year-old and he's gone like 4 times now. And they were just visiting and Gloria was like, I want to go to Disney World. And my sister was like, well, it is the happiest place on earth. Like,
oh geez.
Like, would you settle down over there? But what we did do was we brought her in kind of an impromptu way to Storyland in New Hampshire. And Storyland is really funny and we're going to make a video out of it too. I shot a lot of video. I'm going to cut something together. Of course, John wasn't there. We had the idea of like renting a van or something and bringing John and Matt there. And they desperately wanted to do it. And having done it now, it would have been a terrible idea. Oh, okay. John would not have been able to keep up. It was hot and there was a shitload of walking. And And you want to do what the kid wants to do. And there's, frankly, what's great about Storyland is there's nothing for the adults to do. This is for the kids. So there's no bitching out of it. But like one of the things you can buy an additional ticket to do is like have a tea with Cinderella. And so they've got all the fairy tale. They've got Captain Hook and they've got Cinderella and they've got, a pirate ship you can go on. And they've got, the little old woman in the shoe is like a playground, and they've got like Sleeping Beauty. They've got Peter Pan. They've got like pretty much all of the Disney characters, but they're not Disney. Yeah, and I was watching out versions. I was watching out for like, is there any actual Disney copyright being violated here? And I think what was it? I saw one for sure. Where I was like, oh, that's just straight up. That just is a picture of Winnie the Pooh or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was. But Storyland's a good time. I mean, it's perfect for little kids. And when they get tired, you can go on the train ride that goes around the whole place. And they let the little kids drive like golf carts that are on tracks. That was pretty fun.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
And they got an overpriced chocolate place there and stuff. We got there at 9 and we left at 5. So we did the whole day.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Gloria had a good time.
Yeah, well, she's not like activity oriented. She's not like, oh, now let's go to this activity and that activity. She's more like, what game can we play in this environment? So how about like I'm a princess and you're the beast, and the reason we're playing hide and seek, is because, and she always kind of like casts all these roles on me, and I got to keep it straight. And when you're fatigued, you're like, okay, what?
Boys are much easier. Well, my boys are. They're like, what in here is spinning? I want to look at it.
Yeah, like there's rides. And I was like, want to go on a ride? Want to go on this flume? Want to go on this little roller coaster? She's like, no, it's not part of the game. The game, really, she wanted to play hide and seek. She wanted to play tag, but the tag has to come with a narrative. I think storytelling is kind of like a love language in this family. She wants to hear stories. She wants to tell stories. So we went to Storylands.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.